Hello, today is Wednesday, the 29th of October, and today I hope you're praying for the people of Jamaica. I was there, it's been 25 years ago, and it's a beautiful island, and some frightening news about those 185 mile an hour winds that hit the island and sustained winds of 150 even after it had passed over. Just pray for those who survive. I fear there'll be a lot of people that don't, but be in prayer for them. But today we are reading Genesis chapter 47. We're going to be reading verses 1 through 12, and we're going to skip down to verse 27 and read through 31. Word of God says, Then Joseph went and told Pharaoh and said, My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds and all that they possess have come into the land of Canaan, and indeed they are in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to dwell in the land, because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, for the famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. Then Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Egypt is before you. Have your father and brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my flock, over my livestock. Then Joseph brought in his father Jacob and set him before Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to Jacob, How old are you? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph situated his father and his brothers and gave them a possession in the land of Egypt, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Then Joseph provided his father, his brothers, and all his father's herdsmen or household with bread according to the number of their families. Now verse 27. So Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. When the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, Now if I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers. You shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I will do as you have said. Then he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. So Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. So Jacob, after all these years, has finally been reunited with Joseph in Egypt. Joseph introduces his brothers to Pharaoh, and a big deal is not made of this. The fact that when Pharaoh asked Joseph's brothers what was their occupation, they mentioned, we are shepherds, we are herdsmen, as was our forefathers. Now, what's not mentioned in this passage, but historically we know that shepherds were looked down upon by Egyptians. As a matter of fact, they were kind of the lowlife. I mean, if there was something below a garbage man, it would be a shepherd. Not to belittle garbage men in any way. But the thing is that it was a very lowly kind of position in the nation of Egypt. Now, nothing is made of this at this point. But later, there'll be some noticeable things that come out about this very thing. And so that's one observation. What's the other observation? Well, Jacob blesses Pharaoh. Now, blessings are words spoken over somebody, deeds done for somebody. And in that time, in that culture especially, they carry great meaning. It was symbolic, yes, but it was also more than that. You remember Jacob knew something about the blessing, because remember he stole Esau's blessing from his father Isaac, and because he stole the blessing, we know it was more than just mere words. There was substance behind it. And Esau was so angry that Jacob had stolen his blessing that he wanted to kill Jacob. Now we know that was many, many, many years earlier, perhaps 100 years, due to the fact that Jacob is 137 years old at this point. But the point is, a blessing was something very substantial. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. This would be something that would make a very fruitful, deeper study. Because in our culture in the United States, a blessing is, we don't really have a concept of what that is, other than, bless you. It's just words, may the Lord bless you. Well, that's fine and good, but to bless somebody means to do something for them, something substantial. I think it's something that cost us something. It's not empty. It's not idle. And so the fact that Israel, Jacob, blesses Pharaoh, perhaps with that blessing he gave him gifts. I don't know. But that would have been something that would have been appropriate. After all, Pharaoh had given him a place to live, provided for his family, his servants, land for his sheep to graze. He's provided everything needed for life. It would have been appropriate for Jacob to bless Pharaoh with an offering of what he had, sheep. I don't know. But what's the application of this story for us? The key points, as I mentioned, the fact that they identify as shepherds, the fact that the Egyptians, honestly, that not only did they look down upon shepherds, but there was almost a loathing attitude towards shepherds that we read about later. We see the blessing of Jacob to Pharaoh. What else do we see? We see that after 17 years of living there in Egypt, Jacob, when he was about to die, brings Joseph before him and makes him swear not to bury him there in Egypt. He says, whatever you do, do not bury me here in Egypt. Take my body back to be buried with my forefathers. Why? Why was this so important to Jacob? As we think about this subject, I remember several years ago, a man in my church was dying, and he was from up north. He was from up in, I think, around Syracuse or up somewhere upstate New York. And he'd lived down here for a number of years. And he told me, and he had two daughters that were older than me. So this man was up there. And the arrangement was that when he died, they were going to take his body back up north and he was going to be buried in New York. And I remember having a discussion with him as to what was going on. Why? What's your reason? And he said, I have a son that died when he was a little boy that's buried up there in a cemetery all by himself. And he said, I don't want him to be alone. And he was very adamant about it, but it was a very tender. I could tell that after all those years, it was something that was still very near and dear to him, that boy. You know, we read yesterday about Jacob's reunion with Joseph after however many years, believing he was dead. And the tears of joy that were wept during that reunion. Maybe there was just some sentimentality here with Jacob, that he wanted to be buried with his family. And I think there's something to that. I think there's something to, there's a connection that we have with home, whatever that is, wherever we make it. You know, I learned a long time ago that home is not necessarily where you were born and raised. Home is, as they say, home is where the heart is. Home is where family is, and family is what makes a home, not a building, not a place, but the people. And so Jacob wanted to be buried with his people. And his people, even though they had been transported and were living currently in Egypt, that wasn't their home. That wasn't their home. They were just passing through. They weren't going to be there forever. He knew that the land that God had given his people was Canaan. So that's a lesson that I see in this passage as well. The importance of home. The importance of knowing where your people are. Now we know it's interesting. He asked when Pharaoh asked Jacob how old he was. He said his answer was basically my pilgrimage. I've been a pilgrim, he said, for 130 years. 130 years is my pilgrimage. And that just, another word, literally sojourning. I love that term because we're just pilgrims in a land on our way to a home. But this world is not our home. We're just passing through. That's all I have for today. I hope you could think about those things that we kind of drew out of this, and maybe there's some application for you, but mine is that home is where the heart is. Home is where our people are. And I know where I want to be buried. And it's just one of those things. But I also know that's not home. My home is with Jesus. And I hope yours is as well. That's all I have. Hope you have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow.